Welcome to our deep dives into the Book of Esther.
Exciting.
You've brought some really intriguing excerpts.
Yeah.
I'm already hooked on this tale of palace intrigue and hidden identities.
It's a good one.
It's like a real-life thriller set in the ancient world, right?
It certainly has all the elements.
Yeah.
And the setting itself is fascinating. We're talking about the Persian Empire under King Ahasuerus,
Okay.
a truly vast empire stretching from India to Kush,
Wow.
modern-day Ethiopia,
Okay.
to put that in perspective. It's like going from the Pacific Ocean all the way to the Mediterranean Sea.
So we're talking serious power here.
Oh, yeah.
And in the midst of all this is Esther,
Right.
a young Jewish woman who finds herself queen, but keeps her Jewish identity a secret. Why the secrecy, though?
Good question.
Was it common for people to hide their religious or cultural backgrounds in the Persian Empire?
It's a question that really gets to the heart of Esther's story and her position within the empire. While the Persian Empire was known for its relative tolerance, being Jewish in a predominantly non-Jewish world still carried its own set of complexities and potential dangers.
I see.
It's worth noting that this story takes place generations after the Babylonian exile,
Okay.
a traumatic event that saw the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem
Right.
and the displacement of many Jews.
So there's a historical backdrop of displacement and a need to navigate a new reality within this vast empire
Exactly.
that sheds a whole new light on Esther's decision to conceal her identity.
Yeah.
But then there's Mordecai,
Right.
her cousin, who seems to be openly Jewish. Was he just taking a huge risk?
Mordecai's position is interesting.
Okay.
He's described as sitting at the king's gate, which suggests he held some level of official position,
Oh,
perhaps as an advisor or administrator.
interesting.
This visibility might have afforded him a degree of protection or social standing that Esther, as a woman confined to the women's quarters, didn't have.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like they each had to find their own way to survive and maintain their identity within this complex system.
Absolutely.
But then we have Haman entering the scene.
Oh.
He's described as an Agagite,
Yeah.
which sounds pretty ominous.
Is.
Can you unpack that term for us?
Sure.
What's an Agagite?
Haman's identity as an Agagite is significant.
Okay.
The Agagites were a people associated with the Amalekites, a group that had a long history of conflict with the Israelites dating back to the time of Moses.
Oh, wow.
So there's already a built-in tension,
Right.
a historical animosity that's baked into Haman's character from the outset.
So it's not just personal prejudice.
Right.
It's rooted in generations of conflict.
Exactly.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And we all know what happens next. Haman hatches this horrific plan to exterminate all the Jews in the empire.
It's scary stuff.
What was going on here? Was this kind of mass persecution a common occurrence in ancient empires?
It's a chilling reminder that the desire to eliminate an entire group of people based on their ethnicity or religion is sadly not a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
While the Persian Empire was relatively tolerant compared to some others, it was still a hierarchical society with deep-seated prejudices and power imbalances.
Of course.
Haman likely exploited those existing tensions to manipulate the king and advance his own agenda.
It's like a real-life Game of Thrones, but with even higher stakes.
I see that.
And that brings us to the banquet scene.
Okay.
The king throws this lavish party,
Right.
totally unaware of the brewing storm.
Uh-huh.
And it's here that Esther decides to take a stand,
Brave woman.
risking her life to expose Haman's plot.
It's a pivotal moment.
What stands out to you about this scene?
The banquet scene is incredible.
Yeah,
It's a masterclass in suspense and dramatic tension.
I can imagine.
Imagine Esther, adorned in her royal finery,
Right.
standing before the king and his court.
Oh, wow.
She knows that revealing her identity could mean instant death.
Yeah. But she also knows that silence means the annihilation of her people.
Right.
It's a moment of excruciating choice.
Oh, yeah.
And extraordinary courage.
It's a scene that stayed with people for centuries.
For sure.
And it's interesting that the text describes her falling before the king, begging for her life and the lives of her people.
Yeah.
There's a raw vulnerability in that image.
Right.
A queen stripped of her power, pleading for mercy.
That vulnerability is key.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even in positions of power, people are still human. Esther, despite her royal status,
Right.
is ultimately a woman facing a terrifying dilemma.
Right.
It humanizes her
Yeah.
and makes her courage even more impactful.
That's a good point.
And let's not forget, The delicious detail of Haman in his panic falling onto Esther's couch.
Oh, yeah.
That little detail adds so much.
Right. It's like this moment of slapstick in the midst of high drama.
I know, right?
You can almost picture the king's expression.
Yeah.
The utter bewilderment and growing rage. It highlights Haman's utter clumsiness and desperation.
Yeah.
Here he is trying to orchestrate this elaborate genocide, and he ends up tripping over his own feet, literally falling at the feet of the woman he's trying to destroy.
Wow.
It's almost comical if it weren't so tragic.
And the irony of it all.
Right.
He built the gallows for Mordecai,
Yeah.
and then bam, he finds himself swinging from them.
What goes around comes around.
That's like a cosmic boomerang of justice.
That moment of poetic justice is so satisfying.
Definitely.
It speaks to a deep-seated human desire to see wrongdoing punished and for good to ultimately prevail.
I agree.
And it sets the stage for a dramatic shift in power dynamics.
Ooh, I can't wait to dive into
Me
that.
too. Haman's downfall sets off a chain reaction, a seismic shift in the Persian Empire. The king, realizing the magnitude of Haman's treachery and Mordecai's loyalty, elevates Mordecai to Haman's former position.
Talk about a glow up. It's like something out of a rags to riches story 1 minute. Mordecai is sitting at the king's gate. The next, he's second in command of the entire empire. That's a serious power move. But what does this tell us about how the Persian Empire operated? Was it common for someone to rise through the ranks so quickly?
Mordecai's sudden ascension speaks to the absolute power of the king and his ability to bestow favor and elevate individuals, sometimes dramatically. Remember, we're talking about a vast, sprawling empire with many moving parts. The king needed people. He could trust people who were both competent and loyal. And in that moment, Mordecai became that trusted advisor.
Makes you wonder if there were others waiting in the wings hoping to capitalize on Haman's fall. It must have been a cutthroat environment, especially at the top.
Absolutely. The Persian court was likely a hotbed of intrigue and power struggles. But Mordecai's story shows that even in such a system, loyalty and integrity could be recognized and rewarded. And let's not forget, this all happens in the wake of a near genocidal plot. The king needs to stabilize the situation, reassure his people, and project strength, elevating Mordecai, a man who had proven his loyalty and wisdom was a strategic move.
It's like a giant chess game, with each move having far-reaching consequences. And speaking of consequences, the king at Esther's plea issues a new decree granting Jews the right to defend themselves. It's a dramatic reversal.
Yeah.
Imagine those couriers racing across the empire, carrying a message that would essentially change the course of history.
Those couriers were the lifeblood of the Persian Empire. Think about it. No internet, no telephones, just horses, riders, and a network of roads spanning thousands of miles. The speed and efficiency of the system is remarkable. It's like the ancient world's version of the Pony Express, but with even higher stakes.
And this decree wasn't just a symbolic gesture. The text explicitly mentions that the Jews were given permission to arm themselves and to retaliate against their attackers. This was a sanctioned act of self-defense, a green light to fight back.
That's crucial. The king is essentially deputizing the Jewish community, giving them the legal authority to protect themselves. It speaks to a recognition that the threat against them was real and that they needed the means to defend themselves. It also sends a clear message to those who might have supported Haman's plan back off or face the consequences.
And those consequences were swift and brutal. The text doesn't shy away from describing the violence that ensued, the battles fought, the enemies slain. It's a reminder that this was a time of brutal conflict where survival often meant fighting back.
The text doesn't glorify the violence, but it doesn't shy away from it either. It's presented as a matter-of-fact account of what happened, a stark reality of that time and place. And it's worth noting that amidst the descriptions of fighting and retribution, there's a detail that stands out. The text repeatedly emphasizes that the Jews did not take any plunder from their enemies.
That's a fascinating detail. What do you make of that? Was it a common practice for victors to take spoils of war?
Taking plunder was absolutely standard practice in ancient warfare. It was seen as a right of the conqueror, a way to reward soldiers and enrich the state. The fact that the Jews refrained from doing so suggests something deeper is at play here. Perhaps it was a conscious decision to distinguish themselves from their enemies, to show that they were not driven by greed or vengeance, but by a desire for justice and self-preservation.
It's a subtle detail, but a powerful one. It speaks to a moral code, a sense of restraint, even in the face of victory. And it leads us to the establishment of Purim, a festival that commemorates this incredible deliverance.
Purim is a joyous occasion, a celebration of survival against all odds.
Yeah.
It's a time for feasting, merriment, and giving gifts to the poor, but it's also a time for reflection, for remembering the fragility of life and the importance of standing up for what's right.
I love that Purim is still celebrated to this day, thousands of years after these events took place. It's a testament to the enduring power of this story and its message of resilience. But it's not just about celebrating the past. It's also about finding meaning and inspiration for the present.
Exactly. Purim invites us to ask ourselves, how can we embody that same courage and resilience in our own lives? What are the Hamans we might face today, and how can we, like Esther and Mordecai, act with wisdom and determination to overcome them?
Those are powerful questions. And speaking of powerful figures, let's shift our focus back to Mordecai. He goes from being a relatively unknown figure to the second most powerful person in the empire. That's a meteoric rise. It's like he went from zero to hero overnight. What can we glean from Mordecai's rise to power? Is it just about being in the right place at the right time, or is there more to it?
That's a great question. It's easy to see it as a stroke of luck.
Right.
But if we dig deeper, we see that Mordecai's character played a significant role.
Okay.
Remember, he was the one who uncovered the initial plot against the king,
Right.
saving his life.
Yeah.
He was also a consistent advocate for his people, even before the threat from Haman. It seems his loyalty, wisdom, and courage didn't go unnoticed.
So it's not just about chance.
Right.
It's about the choices he made and the character he displayed.
Exactly.
That's a powerful takeaway, isn't it?
It is.
It suggests that even in a system as seemingly arbitrary as an absolute monarchy, integrity and right action can make a difference.
And it's interesting that the text mentions the full account of Mordecai's greatness and the honors bestowed upon him by the king are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Media and Persia.
Wait, there's another book.
It seems so.
Tell me more about that. What kind of book was it?
It seems to have been an official record.
Okay.
A kind of royal archive where the deeds and decrees of the kings were documented.
Roger.
Imagine a vast library filled with scrolls.
Oh, wow.
Chronicling the history of the empire.
That's so cool.
The fact that Mordecai's story was included speaks to the significance of his accomplishments, not just within the Jewish community, but within the broader context of the Persian Empire.
That's really cool. It's like we're getting a glimpse into a lost world.
I know, right?
A civilization that kept meticulous records of its history.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what other stories and insights might be hidden within those ancient archives.
It's a tantalizing thought, isn't it? We only have fragments of the past.
Right.
Pieces of a larger puzzle.
Yeah.
But even those fragments can illuminate our understanding of the human experience, the choices people made, the challenges they faced, and the legacies they left behind.
Absolutely. And speaking of legacies, the story of Esther and Mordecai has had a profound impact on Jewish culture and tradition.
For sure.
The festival of Purim, with its roots in this ancient tale of courage and survival, continues to be celebrated to this day.
Purim is a vibrant and joyous occasion, a time for feasting, merriment, and the exchange of gifts. But beneath the surface celebration lies a deeper meaning.
Okay.
It's a commemoration of deliverance from imminent danger, a testament to the resilience of the Jewish people in the face of adversity.
I love the theatrical aspect of Purim.
Me too.
The costumes, the retelling of the story, the booing and hissing at the mention of Haman's name.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a participatory history lesson, bringing the story to life in a really engaging way.
It's a brilliant way to keep the memory of these events alive.
Yeah.
And to transmit those lessons of courage and resilience across generations.
For sure.
And there's an element of subversion in that celebration, a way of mocking the would-be oppressor and turning his evil intentions upside down.
It's like saying you tried to destroy us, but we're still here stronger than ever.
Right.
And we're going to celebrate our survival in your face. It's a powerful message of defiance.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope and the potential for renewal. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of the Book of Esther.
What's that?
The absence of any explicit mention of God.
That always struck me as odd.
Really?
Here you have this story filled with dramatic twists and turns.
Yeah.
Narrow escapes.
Right.
And a seemingly miraculous deliverance. And yet, God's name is never mentioned. Why do you think that is?
It's a question that has intrigued scholars for centuries.
Wow.
Some see it as a literary device,
Okay.
a way of highlighting the human agency at play in the story.
Interesting.
Others see it as a subtle commentary on the hiddenness of God. The idea that divine providence often works in ways that are not immediately apparent.
It's like we're being challenged to look beyond the surface.
Right.
To see the hand of God at work in the seemingly random events of history.
Exactly. And this notion of hiddenness is woven throughout the story.
How so?
Esther herself is hidden, concealing her Jewish identity.
Right.
Mordecai's crucial role in saving the Jews is initially hidden from the king.
Yeah.
It's as if the story is inviting us to consider the mystery of divine providence, the idea that even in the absence of overt signs, a greater power might be at work.
It makes you think about those moments in your own life when things just seem to fall into place, when you find yourself at the right place at the right time. Was it just luck, or was there something more guiding your steps?
Those are questions worth pondering, and perhaps that's one of the enduring legacies of the Book of Esther.
What is it?
It invites us to look deeper, to question our assumptions, and to consider the possibility that there might be more to the story than meets the eye.
So we've gone from a tale of palace intrigue to a celebration of survival.
Yeah.
Uncovering layers of meaning and symbolism along the way.
Absolutely.
We've explored the complexities of power,
Right.
the importance of courage and resilience, and the enduring mystery of divine providence. What a journey it's been.
It's been a fascinating deep dive.
Definitely.
And I hope it sparked your curiosity to explore the Book of Esther further.
I think it has.
It's a story that continues to resonate across centuries, offering timeless wisdom and inspiration for those who are willing to listen.
Thank you for bringing these incredible sources to our deep dive.
My pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure exploring them with you and to you, our listener. Thank you for joining us on this journey. That we all find the courage to be like Esther and Mordecai, standing up for what's right, even when the odds seem stacked against us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.